as Hindus, we are genetically qualified to speak on solar. A few thousand years ago, Muni Agastya was sent by the Devas with Aditya Hridayam, a divine metaphysical revelation on the power, glory, and importance of the sun, to aid Lord Rama, who for a second was in awe of the enormous challenge in front of him, Ravan. And this, mind you, ladies and gentlemen, was long before the rest of the world woke up to debate whether the earth was round or flat. My work has been simplified by earlier speakers, especially Chintan and then Suresh Prabhu, about the importance of what is called non-conventional energy, but truly is the old conventional energy. And the most important of them is definitely sun, because it is available in plenty and is unlimited in its capacity. We are reaching now an inflection point between conventional and non-conventional energy. Fossil fuel costs are going up, renewable energy costs are coming down, and it is expected that solar energy in the next couple of years will reach grid parity in terms of cost. A lot is already known about the various types of solar energy. You have solar PV, within that there are several variations, you have solar thermal, etc. Large solar farms are coming up all over the world, especially in India, with several thousand megawatts now already in operation. But what I'm going to talk to you today about is how can we use solar power to empower the disenfranchised sections of society in dispersed rural areas, and to empower them, how we are going to make use of M-power or mobile power. From the first slide you can see that this company, OmniGrid Micro Power Company, by its very name, it does micro power. We are going away from the traditional mega power concept, because when I met with the energy head of World Bank, he said traditionally power has been one to many, one large mega power project supplying to millions of people through a grid. The future of power is going to be turned upside down on its head and will be many to one, which means that every unit of housing or commercial activity will have its own power plant, mostly fuel cells, which will meet the needs of the respective unit and supply the surplus power to the grid. This is also being necessitated by the environmental challenges that conventional technology poses in front of society, and the shortage of land, as well as the severe shortage of existing raw materials. So you can look at this picture, for example. It's in a village called Jangaon in western UP. It needs only 10,000 square feet of land. It can be a barren land. It doesn't have to be taken away from the food chain. And you can see that there are 2 telecom towers in the background. You'll be surprised to know that in India we have 400,000 telecom towers, most of them running on diesel generating sets, and are the second largest consumer of diesel in the country. They consume more than 2 billion liters of diesel every year, causing severe shortage as well as environmental concerns. So what does this company do? Number one, it targets at least 2 to 3 telecom towers which are generally close to each other in the village, and give them a grid equivalent power quality as well as site maintenance services. Grid equivalent power means you need to have 99.95% uptime, which means nearly zero failure. So it has to be engineered to the quality that you have zero failure. But along with providing them with clean power, we also provide clean energy packed in boxes to individual homes in the village, surrounding village and hamlets, which might be 2,000 to 3,000 homes with about 10 to 15,000 population. Next, please. You can see that this is providing a 230 volt grid equivalent power to these two telecom towers. So on top of the civil structure, you have the solar panels, which can go up to 45 kilowatts. The power required by these two towers will be about 5 kilowatts, and the balance is used for supplying to the surrounding village. Next. You can see now there are some solutions where they talk of rooftop power for housing, but as you can see from this picture, it is impossible to put any solar panels on top of this house. And also it's an inefficient way of providing energy. Next. So this illustrates, that you gather solar energy from the sun into the panels and harness it into batteries and then supply it to the telecom towers. It can also be supplemented by biomass, biogas, or micro wind turbines, and then also supply to the village. Next. Go on to the next one, please. So this is how you can create a microgrid. As I said, you can use mini wind turbines, and you can use solar energy or any other form of energy, and use it for lighting, for fans, for mobile charging, and in the next phase, you go on to also have e-cycles, solar water pumps, providing power to educational institutions, banks, and gas stations. Next. Next, please. Move on. I'm just showing you these pictures, but go on, please. So what is essential is providing the pyramid at the bottom of the pyramid. Next. The first is replacing kerosene lamps, on which they spend about 180 rupees a month, with clean power. Many of these kerosene lamps, they are giving out fumes which cause more than 250,000 deaths per year in rural India alone. This is being replaced by LED lanterns, which is supplied by us. Next, please. In the value chain, you will see today we provide what we call as a Bijli box with 3 inputs. It lights up 2 LED lights, 1 table fan which consumes only 6 watts of power, and a mobile charging input. In the next phase, we have also introduced e-cycles, and this is how our man goes and delivers to each household. Once in the morning, once in the evening, he has put over there the new one, and he is taking back the discharged lantern. You can see on top of the gate also, for the first time, he has an identity. Every single house has been given his name, and what we found in the village was that this was to him more important than anything else, because he had forgotten about Swabhiman, given the fact that he had to go to every doorstep to get even the simplest basic of services. Next. Next, please. So cutting the cord. If you see in telecom, for It took us 100 years to get to 25 million landlines. And then in 15 years, we have 900 million mobile users. A similar thing can happen in case of power, because if we wait for the grid to reach these remote areas, they will be deprived of social inclusion and power for the next 50 or God knows how many years. And that is why we came up with this mobile power model. Next, please. This is the box that I was talking about. As you can see, it has 3 inputs, and this is delivered like a milkman every day, twice into rural homes. Next. You can see the 2 LED lights, you can see the fan in the distance as well as the mobile. Yeah. The fan is also, besides providing them wind, it is driving away the fumes. From these chulas, the fumes are taking away more than 200,000 lives every year. And this is how they are using. These are the, move ahead. These are the lanterns and bijli boxes which are being charged at a central charging station. You saw the solar panels on top. This is what is below. You also have a battery bank in this enclosure. Next. What it has started doing, you can see this is an actual picture of a businessman in the village who could not do his business beyond 6 or 6:30, and is today having business for additional 3-4 hours. He's earning 4,000-5,000 rupees more than what he was earning in the past. Next. This is the e-cycle that I spoke to you about. It is it works 60 kilometers per charge, and if you run out of battery, you can still pedal. The villagers have started using this on a pay-per-use model. So when he wants to take his wife on the back seat, or he wants to go to a marriage or some social function, or he wants to carry his crop to the mandi, then he hires out this cycle for these activities. Next. Next. This is another picture from the same village. As you can see, most of these students had dropped out of school because neither the school had electricity nor the home had electricity where they could do their homework. And now in the 300 villages that we are currently operating, a few thousand children have gone back to school. And some of the women have taken up additional work like embroidery or stitching, and their household income has gone up by 3,000 to 4,000 rupees. Next, please. So, in a sense, this is a project for a complete upliftment of rural dispersed societies, and not only about providing solar power, but making use of solar power as a means to bringing light into the lives of these disenfranchised people. Just imagine for a moment, close your eyes and think for 3 seconds. They live their lives in abject darkness. And I would like to quote to you 3 instances that I came across while inaugurating the first village. We had stopped at a tea shop and we heard a baby crying, and when we asked the mother, she said she couldn't find the milk bottle, and she was able to find it once we focused the headlight of the car onto the room. And then she shared with us that many in the village, by mistake, due to darkness, give rat poison to the child instead of milk, and the child dies. Another instance that was told to us, a villager coming back from the field accidentally steps onto a snake. The snake bites. This guy is yelling, but because it is total darkness, the other villagers or his family members can't get to him in time, and he dies because of not having timely help. These kind of incidents were narrated to us, time and again in every village that we went. And today, this is bringing about a huge change. It has got global attention. As you will see from this list, the latest one was in the Economist. BBC last week has gone and shot a film which will be shown on India Business Hour, comparing a village which doesn't have this solution and the one which has this solution. And global funding agencies like World Bank, Rockefeller Foundation, IDFC, ILFS, etc., are vying to become a part of this solution and also to take it globally. The beauty is that you don't have to wait for $1 billion investment and 7 years to start operation. Each site can be up and running in less than 30 days. A site costs about 50 lakhs of rupees. So it can be started easily through a franchise model. This can be replicated, and we have been receiving requests from several countries to bring this solution to their countries, because not only Bharat, but several countries in Africa, in Southeast Asia, etc., are facing a similar issue. With that, in conclusion, and continuing with the spirit of what Mr. Jagdishan said, I am reminded of an old song which epitomizes the spirit of this convention, and with your permission, I'll sing a couplet from that song. छोड़ो कल की बातें, कल की बात पुरानी, नए दौर में लिखेंगे मिलकर नई कहानी. हम हिंदुस्तानी, हम हिंदुस्तानी. Thank you.